Hello bearded bee people, welcome back to B&K Bees. Today I am out doing more formic. I am giving the last of our production yards formic in the form of Formic Pro, and I'm almost done. I've got 2 pallets left, and it looks like they're incomplete pallets at that, so 2 pallets with 3 hives left. And I figured I'd chat a little bit about honey production, and more specifically, how to guarantee yourself some honey. Now, we're gonna have to separate this into two sections, or 2 groups of people. That would be people with 5 or fewer colonies and people with more than 5 colonies. With people that more than 5 colonies, I can summarize it by saying, split them in the spring, add boxes. Keep adding boxes during the honey flow, and you're definitely going to get yourself some honey to pull. That might not be in the form of full boxes off of every hive, but if you go frame to frame, you're gonna find more than enough honey if you're running more than 5 hives. If you're running fewer than 5, the process is a little bit different, and I'm going to talk about this while I'm going through this colony here, or while I'm getting ready to, or while I am adding formic to this colony. If you have fewer than 5 hives, I think it's more of a, obviously you can do it the way that I had just said. You can just add boxes as necessary, split them in the spring so that they don't swarm, and add boxes as necessary. But in a lot of cases, you're getting stuff built up, and it's more difficult to put up honey just by putting a box on the colony. They've got to have a lot of bees. There has to be nectar coming in for them to be able to draw the wax out. So there's a lot of stuff that has to go correctly or go right for you to be able to put up honey when you're getting your colonies started. Now, for that, that doesn't mean that you don't get honey. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't expect honey. A lot of people will say, you're not going to get any during your first year, and I think that's BS. I think that you should be in your colonies every week, and as you're in your colonies every week, you should be paying attention for honey frames. Obviously, they are a problem if there are too many in the brood area, but also they're just putting up a lot of honey. Even if they're building up their wax, they're still putting up quite a lot of honey, and I think it's a good idea for you beginning beekeepers with just a few hives to keep an eye out for those fully honey frames, because they are going to exist at some point in your hive throughout the year. So when you see them, try to grab them, try to put them up above a queen excluder, or keep your eye on them. Make sure that you remember exactly where they were. Now, if you can put them up above a queen excluder, that's even better. Now, I know a lot of you guys are probably running deeps for your brood area and shallows or mediums for your honey, so that might be a little bit difficult, but even if you can't put them above the queen excluder, you can keep an eye on that frame. Pay attention to where it's at, remember where it's at, and keep checking it every week when you get in there to be aware of when it is mostly capped. Now, the question of, am I taking too much if I take 1 frame out of the brood area? Now, no is my answer to that. No, I don't think that that's taking too much. I do think that you're probably going to end up having to feed slightly more at the end of the year. But in my opinion, I think that first honey out of your hive during that first year is really important, because there are a lot of frustrating aspects to getting started in beekeeping. And that really, really rewarding and fulfilling moment of sharing your honey with your family, I think is necessary to keep our hearts in it and to keep us excited about it. And once again, all it will take is just a little bit of extra food at the end of the year to replace what you took. So, like I said, get into your colonies every week. Pay attention for where are those frames that are starting to get heavy, starting to get fat with honey. And grab them. Grab them and take them away from those bees as soon as you can, as soon as they're ready to go. Pay attention to what's going on in your colonies. Keep an eye out for those honey frames and be prepared to take them, whether they're from the brood area or not, as soon as they're capped. You really, really don't want to leave them in there for an extended period of time, because that extended period of time could include a dearth where they go through and they start removing most of the uncapped nectar and honey. So pay attention to it, move it up above a queen excluder if you can. If not, keep an eye on it and test its moisture level every time you get into that colony, so that you can be prepared to take it out of that colony as soon as you can. And that'll offer you, like I said, that wonderfully fulfilling moment of being able to harvest honey from your hive in your first or second year, and it'll keep you really excited and encouraged about your beekeeping ventures going forward. I am going to put this veil on. Okay, and now what do you do with that frame? If you've got 1 colony or 3 colonies and you don't have an extractor, don't worry about that. You don't have to have an extractor to enjoy your honey. You can uncap it and turn it up, or turn it sideways so that the cells are pointed down, and they will drain into a bucket or a Rubbermaid or whatever it is that you want them to drain into, or you can just scrape it. And I think so much concern is put by beginning beekeepers into the amount of time and energy it takes for wax to get built up that beginning beekeepers will discourage each other from doing that. I don't want to discourage you from doing that. Scrape that frame, enjoy your honey. They will rebuild that frame next year so quickly that you won't even notice it being gone. Like I said, you'll probably end up having to feed a little bit extra at the end of the year, but you won't really notice it. I mean, you're gonna have to feed anyway. It's your first year or two, and yeah, I mean, most of us end up having to feed toward the end of the year. So be prepared to buy an extra 20-pound bag of sugar to replace that frame that you took, but don't feel guilty about it. Don't feel like you're setting your bees back or giving your bees less of a chance to survive the winter, because as long as you keep your bees happy, heavy, and healthy before winter, they are going to be okay. As long as you get that food in them and get them up to that proper weight, those bees are going to be fine without that frame. I'm gonna go grab another honey box. Speaking of honey, that box is heavy. Okay, and so lastly, before I end this video, I want to say, take that frame earlier rather than later. Like I said, pay attention to it every single week. And it doesn't have to be 1 frame. It could be 1 frame per colony. It could be many frames. Take it earlier rather than later. You do want to leave yourself enough time to be able to replace it with sugar syrup. The concept that a lot of beginners think when they hear me advocating removing honey and replacing it with sugar syrup is that you're doing your bees a disservice in terms of nutrition, and that's just not the case. These winter bees go into winter with enlarged fat bodies that allow for them to dispense and consume nutrients even in the dead of winter. What they truly need to be able to get through the winter are carbohydrates, and that is why they need sugar or honey. But the difference between sugar syrup, it's white granulated sugar that's made that syrup, and honey is that sugar syrup is almost pure energy. It's just energy, it's just carbohydrates and water, whereas the honey has a lot of plant solids and pollens and other things that can cause digestive problems for your bees through the winter. So not that I'm advocating taking all of their honey from them and replacing it with sugar syrup, but if you take some and replace it with sugar syrup, you are not doing them a disservice. Their nutrition levels are going to be fine, and you are replacing that honey with the cleanest energy you can possibly give them that will give them a good chance to get through the winter without messing up the outside of the hive with poops that happen right as they're leaving for cleansing flights on those rare warm winter days. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with replacing some of the honey with sugar syrup. Don't feel like you're putting your bees at a disadvantage, and don't feel guilty about it. Enjoy your honey, enjoy your first, second year, whatever it is. Leave any questions in the comment section below if you have any. I'd be happy to chat with you there. I love chatting bees. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and get out there and have some fun with your bees. See ya.